Good evening. Today I will be building a custom Blood Knights character to lead the rest of its unit to battle against those with breath still in their lungs. It's tabletop time. Let's go build a vampire. This video is sponsored by Myths of Moonrise. You'll be hearing about them very shortly.
All right, Murray, the battle report is finally out, and we got to reveal that some undead would be coming into our campaign of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, we had a little teaser at the end, and I'm gonna be joining in.
Yes! So you're doing undead, but undead have changed a little bit from when we filmed that battle report. So now they're the Soul Blight Gravelords?
Yes, we got Flesh Eater Corpse, Soul Blight, and is Death Rattle still a thing?
No, I think
That's
they got
folded
rolled
into it.
into Soul Blight
Cool.
Gravelords.
See, we're all very confused by everything that's going on.
So you're going to make a really cool vampire character for a new Soul Blight Gravelords army that's going to be fighting my Stormcasts in an upcoming battle report.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the old Death Guard, Grave Guard. The Whites are awesome, and some of Blood Knights. Speaking of which, that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to do some Blood Knights. I haven't really planned anything. I'm just going to go straight in.
Well, I've got some exciting news for you, Murray. You know, any character that you make in this video, Alicia's going to end up doing custom portrait art for the battle report.
Yeah, I had not considered this.
I can't wait to see what you come up with. All right, good luck.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. All right. Now, my plan for this video is to make the Sergeant for my Blood Knights to establish the theme and the mood for the rest of the unit. I've always wanted to get my hands on some Blood Knights. They used to be pretty notoriously a very expensive unit in Warhammer, and the plastic kit is gorgeous, and this had to happen, all right? So, I'm going to go and make a pretty cool conversion.
If you love vampires and werewolves as much as we do, you will love Myths of Moonrise. Myths of Moonrise is a unique match 3 strategy game that will require you to actually use your brain, unlike some zombies, to come out on top. Myths of Moonrise is celebrating their 1-year anniversary, complete with events, new heroes, and Dusk Palace skins. The game features an immersive storyline that you can get drawn into while you master all the intricate strategies and abilities that are featured inside this game. There's regular updates and content being added all the time, but best of all, the game is completely free to play. To give it a go, the game features an anniversary gift code, Anniversary, which will give you $19.99 worth of gifts to use inside the game. So what are you waiting for? Join the game now. The links are in the description below. And links! Description! Just below!
I don't know about you, but I've always wanted a box of Blood Knights. They've always been that thing, just not attainable.
I always wanted a box of them too. They're probably my favorite model from the entire Undead range. I kind of like vampires, and I had a box of Blood Knights, and then I gave them to you, remember?
You did.
For this
you
video.
did. This is a real moment. I think for both of us, we get to see this finally realized, and I'm really excited to work on this, but I mean, the problem is, where do you start? I haven't seen this actual sprue before, and there's a lot on here.
Yeah, well, broadly, I love this kit. Pretty much everything about it is amazing. The one thing I have to say that I wasn't in love with is the heads. Now, the sculpts are really good, but the one thing that I don't like is that all of their hair is like shooting up in the sky like they're going Super Saiyan. Every single one.
Yeah, everyone is just a vampire cowlick, and they're all hissing. Every single person hiss.
Screeching vampires with hair shooting into the sky.
I also have some of my own bits to work with. I've got all the sprues from my Skeletons and Graveguard, and I've got my own copy of Cursed City, which I bought entirely for all the miniatures. You can see me here, described into the camera with no audio, and I just bought it to paint the characters because they were such cool things, and it was the only way you could get the new Death Rattle Skeletons that were so gorgeous.
In Jen's previous conversion video, where she made a Chaos Sister of Battle, we thought it was a great tragedy that this Death Cult assassin was just left with no arms.
Yeah, I did notice that. The posture of this, I thought, really looks like someone sitting side saddle in a very elegant, almost supernatural manner. Ooh. So, you know, we could have a bit of a duo rider here. And this is on the sprue of my Cursed City. There's this one character which I love the concept art for. Her head is really cool, so I'm gonna have it. One of my favorite models for the undead at the moment is the fairly recent Ghost Lady. What's her name?
Briar Queen, but what's it?
Yes.
I remembered her name like a day ago when you asked me.
Yes, editor, put up her picture in post. Thank you. But she is absolutely stunning. I love the veil going over her face to show like the ghostly visage. So I'm gonna do just a little bit of a vampire rendition here. Now it's becoming more and more like a standard conversion project. I've got the rider on the undead horse. I was originally going to cut it off at the waist and repose it because the angle of presentation is slightly to the right of the rider. Of course, I was going to replicate that, but then I thought, you know what? To the left would look really good, particularly with the side saddle riding individual. That's one of the things you can definitely do to make a really impactful conversion is just change the angle of presentation. It makes a world of difference and it's really simple. Now, as I was dry fitting these and sort of trialing how I wanted to lay this conversion out, I was trying to sort of create the backstory for them as I went along. Firstly, I was thinking, you know, maybe one's a slave, one's a courtesan, a lover, and then I had this idea that these two female individuals could be sisters that had lived through the old world and it was always them against the world. And then one of them, of course, becomes a vampire, and then they decide they will both serve in the afterlife together, protecting each other as they had in life. And so that is going to be my little headcanon backstory for these two sisters.
Now, I noticed with the screeching vampire face of choice you've put on that side saddle rider, and then this ghostly arm you're attaching it with, I can't help but be reminded of a driving instructor in a car when the learner driver puts the foot on the accelerator. There's a little bit of the and like grab the handle there. It does look like she's been startled very heavily by something and is grabbing onto her sister for dear life. Or dear unlife.
Yeah, I was originally going with the idea of two lovers and, you know, one hand would be lovingly draped on the other. I had this arm and I thought it really looked like it was using the other's purchase, you know, trusting in each other. She's going to trust that she can hold on to her sister here as she charges forwards and she's going to have her back. Now, no sisters of vampiric persuasion would find themselves caught out without their own handbag. That is, in fact, a joke, as I am going to put a very decapitated hand inside this bag. As it's just a, you know, it's the snacks for later.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. They just sort of cut the arm off and hold the hand upright and then just slurp out of the wrist.
Yeah, it's like, sort of like the old Viking Longhorn they drink the, the mead from.
Pleasant wrist juice. Now, you did say that was a handbag, but I was thinking, as D&D players, it looked a little bit like it could have been Heward's handy haversack.
Very good, very good.
Nice D&D joke, I know, I'm very good.
And now for a final touch, I've gotten this piece, which was also from my Night Haunt pieces, and I'm gonna drop it on camera. Now, since I'd used the body of this assassin, which is a very futuristic model with, let's just say, a corset that doesn't go all the way to the top, she's in the sort of bodysuit that's not really becoming of a vampire dignitary, so I need to make the corset reach up a little bit further. And I'm going to create this ruffle across the chest, which I think looks pretty period. I'm thinking Elizabeth Swann in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I'm gonna teach you the meaning of pain!
You like pain? Try wearing a corset.
I do like the addition of the ruff here. It also helps to break that silhouette away from a 40k Death Cult assassin quite a lot.
Yeah, it made a big difference. That and removing the grenade from the hip.
No, I would have kept that.
Ah, fair enough. Alright, and now the final piece of converting for this model. I had thought of doing this sort of halberd or something for this, but looking at this big heavy mace reminded me of this spare weapon that I had from my Night Haunts as well. This big, almost lantern with a trailing smoke effect. And I'm gonna have it. So I'm gonna cut it off here, rejoin it onto the mace where that would attach to the sort of haft, and I'm going to play around with it until I get the smoke, or rather the fire trail, the ethereal fire trail at an angle that I think looks really nice from all angles, and to suggest a bit of movement in that direction as well. Now, for what Night Haunt I've already painted, I had them based in a swamp, this really heavy swamp, very much inspired by the Dead Marshes in Lord of the Rings. Big hillocks and just swamp water covering all the little laylows of the land. But with these ones, I'm going to incorporate that in case I ever want to use some of those models, but also establish a very more refined and civilized manner. Got a little bit of a sort of like a courtyard or something. Maybe the more flagstoned area in front of a graveyard or mausoleum or some such area. And that'll also make a really nice contrast to the model's feet. And with that applied, I'm just going to add this texture paste to give the effect of the swamp that the rest of my army has, and just add that little piece of terrain with the flowing fire, which will match the direction of the fire on the weapon, just to create consistency throughout the piece and establish a continuing flow. Blood Knights are really iconic with all their colored armor, so honestly, I'm going to try and replicate the box art, the official art, as much as possible. What I am going to do is put my own spin of those colors and textures though. I'm going to start by doing a whole lot of underspraying, and then establish the colors in the areas I want, all the contrasts. I want to have as much punch as possible. And about here is where the difference will start. I'm going to shade this sort of very dark, bluey black with, in fact, some pink. It'll make a really nice, interesting punch and suggest that it's something other than just simple dark black leather or something. I'm also going to use a rusty effect on all the scale mail or something hanging off the flanks of the horse. So I'm going to use some red here. It's a very specific red, fairly desaturated and almost orange. This is to do the rust, but I need to be very careful of what colors I use in terms of red, since there's going to be so much red on this Blood Knight already. And so I add here some blue, just straight blue, which will separate this from the other colors, as that will be silver later. And just so I remember that some of these pieces are not red, I'm going to just pick those out in brown. I'm going to do these in nice brass or gold, perhaps. Now, in the official art, good old G-Dubs has done the horse armor in quite a dark red, in that sort of very nice non-zenithal style where you just pick out all the edges and it gets this really nice effect. I applied this really nice burgundy red onto the armor, where I had already established this purple and brown, and then once it was all on in a nice, fairly thick coat, I then actually dunked my brush in water and trailed it all over where I'd already painted, thus reactivating the paint. And then I went in with a piece of paper towel and just blotched some of it away, almost like reverse weathering. And here you can see I'm just going to go in with the paper towel and just basically try and catch the edges. It's almost like dry brush, and just remove any regular line patterns in the paint, or any large areas of paint that has also built up with the water I applied. Any areas that don't get enough red, I'll just go over again, basically like a glaze, just add more and more until I'm happy with it. In fact, I think I will go over it with a glaze at the end, just to establish the color values I really want. Yeah, I think that somehow worked.
Yeah, it's looking good. You always weird me out. How are you just painting with a paper towel? It doesn't make any sense. It's everyone, viewers are on my side here. They're like, why, what is happening and why does it look good? Murray.
Well, you'll have to stay tuned to the rest of the video to see if it actually paid off.
Well, it's paying off so far, frustratingly.
Stipple away, my champion.
Cool. All right, so after that, I'm just going to go through and highlight a bit more of the armor. I'm going to leave it at that stage so I can work on everywhere else, and I might add some glazes, as I said, later on.
Murray, that's not actually red, that's purple.
It is. So I'm going to use this as a foundation for my red. It's going to be all the shading. I've done this with some of my own projects and I really like how it worked out. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to go straight into using the Broken Anvil red paint, which I am absolutely enamored with. It is really, really strong and it'll be perfect for this. And bam! This is...
My God! The vibrancy in that paint is out of control.
Oh yeah, this is maybe 2 coats at most of this red. And I'm just going to highlight with the accompanying red highlights in the same series.
Yes, the Broken Anvil paints are just labeled like red 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Worth pointing out that it wasn't just the red armor that I used with Broken Anvil here, it's actually the entire model. So, surprise.
Murray, you actually do really like those paints. You keep going back to them.
I actually do.
I'd love to see it.
It's time to work on all the metal parts. And you've seen all the weird red rust and blue shades on the chainmail, and now it might start to make sense as it's all the texture, oxidizing, rust, and everything else that has found its way over multiple lifetimes into the metal here. And now I'm just going to move straight on to painting the flesh.
Got a segue, Murray.
Segue.
Speaking of multiple lifetimes, how about painting this vampire skin?
We got lots of skin to paint on this vampire as it's not quite luxuriously relaxed over the back, more like got your sister's back.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I still keep thinking that she looks like Jen whenever I go too fast over a speed bump.
Wow. So I'm going to do a couple of shades with just some blues to get some depth, adding just a little bit of red, but not too much. Actually, adding just a little bit of purple, not red, because I want the skin to look more dead than alive. Very pale blues, oranges, and pinks here, and just try and get this really interesting effect as I highlight up to a bone color for this white fabric.
Now, Murray, this is a pretty interesting way of painting black here. It looks like you're putting reds into the shadows?
Yep. Reds, greens, and blues. This is how I actually like to shade my blacks. It gives a lot more nuance than just flat out using black or Nuln Oil or something. It gives it a lot more character, and you can have some really cool effects like this. Now, for one of the last steps is painting all the brass features and highlighting those little skulls and bat faces. And having worked up to an ochre, it's going to be straight into the bleached bone sort of colors, and this will give a really nice pop. I'm not going to go straight to white. I'm going to keep it in this area to make it just a little dull. Now I've more or less finished all the colors elsewhere. I've taken another look at the horse armor, and it is, in fact, just a little bit dull and lackluster in my eyes. So I'm going to go over it with a quick red glaze, which will bring out a lot more luster in the color.
I've been looking forward to seeing how you paint this ethereal smoke coming from this mace lantern.
Yeah, the smace. I don't know. So I'm going to go
Manton.
in. Yeah, Manton.
It's
Ooh.
the Manton.
So I'm going to go in with a white just to really establish a really vivid color. It's basically accentuated where the light source will be. That's the most important part of doing an object light source effect. And then I'm just going to hastily go in, basically overbrushing with this green. If I get too much green over, I can still go back in with the white and reestablish and clean up anything. Now I'm going to highlight, but actually shade all the object light sourced green down to almost a black to give that really nice contrast pop. I'm just going to get a bit of a contrast paint and just spill over that green elsewhere to show where it's bouncing off the different materials. I don't want it to go spread too far, but I do want to tie it into the base really nicely. Just some on the chainmail, and now we can finish off with a nice black coat around the base. A huge thank you to all our patrons. It's you that let us create such cool and thematic projects for our own use in our campaigns on this channel. You've seen Dave create his Stormcast Dominion, you've seen Jazza with his Mudlads, and now I think it's time to see me with some Vampire Undead.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't have a hot take here.
Oh, do you?
I was thinking a lot of people have negative vibes about Stormcast Eternals, and really I made them to be pretty unlikable. But you know who could be a really fun opponent?
Oh?
How about some of them brand new cities of Sigmar defending the realms of Hyish from the undead?
Oh, that is exciting.
Well, that may be coming soon, and if it does in battle report form, it will be thanks to our patrons. So thank you all for your support. And if you'd like to join up and help us keep making the videos that we make, links are in the description.
Yeah, come join our Discord, have a chat with us about your own projects, and even submit your own projects for discussion, critique, and feedback in our monthly mini review, which is an amazing amount of fun, and everyone always looks forward to it, particularly us.
And here we are at the end, and I have in my hands completed my vampire. Now, this started out as a unit leader for the Blood Knights. However, there's nothing stopping me making this just my vampire lord to lead all my forces. Said forces of which a lot of you will never have seen before, so that's a little exciting. So I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Shall I keep this as the start, more or less, of a brand new army that you will all see on this channel? Or shall I keep it as the unit leader for all the Blood Knights? In the comments, let me know what you have to say, and I'd love to also hear suggestions for other units I could include. As you probably saw at the very end of the battle report, my army has a very piratical persuasion to it. So once again, a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Myths of Moonrise, and for more vampire goodness, check out their game, links are in the description, or follow this channel for even more as I keep going into this little foray into the undead. These sisters have got a lot of army building and life taking to do, so if you'll excuse me, I'll be off.